For centuries, there's been this one single definition that has pretty much shaped how we see ourselves, what it means to be human. But what if that whole idea, the idea that we're just rational animals, is actually holding us back? Today, we're going to dive into a powerful challenge to that very foundation.
Okay, so here it is, the core claim. And it's a bold one, right? It just flies in the face of a tradition that goes all the way back to Aristotle. But the logic behind the statement is actually surprisingly powerful. Let's unpack it.
We've all heard it, right? The classic definition, humans are animals, and the only thing that really sets us apart is our ability to reason. It's simple, it's neat, and it's been a cornerstone of Western thought for millennia. But here's the thing. What if it's just wrong? And that really is the central question here. By defining ourselves by what an animal is, even if we call ourselves a superior version, are we kind of missing the entire point of what we truly are? Are we totally focused on the wrong part of the whole equation?
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, there's this fantastic analogy that makes this whole complex idea incredibly clear. And it all comes down to understanding something called our default state.
So just think about H2O for a second. Simple, right? It can be solid ice, it can be steam, it can be liquid water. But which one of those is it, really? What's its true form?
Well, this brings us to this really cool idea of a default state. Now, it's not just about what form is most common, it's about the most optimal form, the state where something provides the most benefit, has the most impact, and basically achieves its highest purpose.
So for H2O, that default state is, you guessed it, liquid, drinkable water. That's its most beneficial form, right? It's the one that sustains all life. It's the state we rely on more than any other by far.
Yeah, of course. H2O can turn into boiling water or a block of ice. But those are just temporary conditions, aren't they? They're caused by outside forces. They are absolutely not its most essential or beneficial state. They're basically just temporary deviations from that perfect default state.
And this is where it all starts to click. You would never define H2O as boiling water, would you? That sounds crazy. So the argument goes, why on earth do we define humanity by our animal nature, a state that is just as temporary and just as not optimal?
So this whole idea leads us to two totally different ways of looking at what a human even is. One that's all about biology, and another that's about our essential nature, our essence. So check this out. On one side, you've got the biological view. This is all about practical stuff, for physical survival. It tells us things like, hey, you can't breathe underwater. It's useful, for sure, but it says absolutely nothing about our purpose. But then, on the other side, you have the essential view, or hakikat. And this one is different. It's not about our limits, it's all about figuring out our highest nature, our true default state.
So here's the big takeaway. That old rational animal definition, it fits perfectly into that first box, the biological one. It's a handy way to compare us to other animals on a physical level. But according to this argument, it completely misses what makes us, us. It misses our essence.
And there's actually a name for this, a category error. It's kind of like trying to measure how beautiful a song is with a ruler. It just doesn't make sense. When we define ourselves as animals, we're using the totally wrong framework. We're measuring ourselves by a lower state that has nothing to do with our true potential.
Okay, so if rational animal is the wrong category, then what's the right one? This brings us to the final, and I think the most powerful idea here, a whole new way of defining our true nature. Well, this new definition is all about a concept called fitra, and this is presented as humanity's real default state, our inherent, pure nature, with a potential that is just way, way above our animal instincts. It's who we are when we're at our absolute best.
So what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it's defined by the very same things we used for H2O. You're in your fitra, your true default state, when you're providing the most benefit to the world, when you have the widest control over your lower impulses, and when you become a source of strength and reliance for others.
And this is why all of this matters so much. It's not just words. If we just think of ourselves as clever animals, it kind of puts a cap on what we can aspire to be. But if you start to define yourself by your highest potential, by your fitra, well, that changes everything. It changes your whole perspective on life, on your purpose, on what you should be aiming for. It becomes your compass.
So you see, this isn't just some abstract philosophical game. How we define ourselves has real-world consequences. If we just see ourselves as clever animals, well, that can be an excuse for all kinds of behavior, right? But if our true identity is found in our highest, most beneficial state, what does that mean for the choices you make every single day? So I'll leave you with this. What are you choosing to be?